edition of On the Trail in Search of Living Legends. It's going to be episode 12, season 5. Of course, I'm your host, Jeremiah Fountain, along with my co-host, Nick Valente. My partner, Nick, is a Fortean researcher and founder of the IDP, International Dogman Project. He is a hell of a guy, my brother, and I could not do this without him. Nick, how's it going, man?
It's going great. We have a very good show tonight.
Awesome show.
Somebody that has a lot in common with the way we all think and a lot of knowledge.
That's right.
It's the guy down here.
Right.
Y'all are over here, like over here.
Let's introduce Mr. Gary Spikes.
Yes, Mr. Gary Spikes. We are proud to have him back. He is a member of the Inner Circle, our little Inner Circle, one of the co-hosts of the Roundtable. I'm gonna get all sentimental on Gary now. I respect this man like you wouldn't believe. He's like Nick. He's my brother, and I'd do anything for either one of these guys. Just great guys. Gary, it's glad to have you back. We're gonna have a great show tonight. Gary's got some really interesting stuff to talk about, and Gary, you know what I want to start off with, if you wouldn't mind. You haven't. I remember 4 years ago when we first became tight. You told me this story, and it just blew my mind.
Yeah, so, I think you was actually with another individual that we won't mention his name.
Yes.
But that's where me and you actually met. And when I told my story for the first time in public, and then we got to talking a little bit, and then coming to find out that I had known Stacy for years.
20 years.
Yeah. But
how weird is that,
Yeah, I think I told.
Funny how life works out.
I think I told my story to you guys, and then I told it one more in public, and then I did it on my channel, but it for years it's hard to talk about. I mean, it still gets kind of emotional, but I've kind of went through this healing process with it,
Yeah, sure. So you want to get into it? Tell us about it right from the beginning.
Yeah, this should be a good one.
Nick never heard this one, so
now keep in mind, it's been 4 years since I've told this, and I've really tried to put a lot of it out of my mind, but I can probably I had got contacted back in 2016. I was doing a lot of behind the scenes research with different groups. I was a member of even back then we didn't have the whole lot of cryptid Facebook groups. It was kind of a smaller community, and I had been pretty in-depth following people like Duke with World Bigfoot Radio, and this was back in the beginning of Wes Germer with Sasquatch Chronicles and all that, and and I had heard some people from South Texas through Wes and had reached out to them, and out of respect for them, I'm not going to mention their name in public, but anybody that knows anything about the Sam Houston National Forest, you'll know these guys. But we had went down there a few times and done some research with them. Great bunch of guys. I learned so much from these guys. I mean, not just about cryptids, but tracking and everything. And I'm even at that time I was I guess they say I'm a pretty good tracker. I was doing it for the Department of Corrections for 5 states.
Awesome tracker.
But make a long story short, I had was working in the oil field, and I guess you would say Thanksgiving Eve, my wife had went to Tulsa, and I was going to have to work because I didn't have nobody to cover my shift. Had went to Tulsa to spend Thanksgiving with her family. Well, lo and behold, had some people show up on my crew, so I had some free time. And I was literally trying to decide if I was going to go to Tulsa with my wife. Everybody that knows I live here in central Oklahoma, around Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And I got a message, an email from a certain individual out of South Texas, and he says, "Hey, what are you doing this weekend?" And I said, I was thinking about going to Thanksgiving with my family, my in-laws. He goes, "You don't want to go to, for Thanksgiving with your in-laws. You want to go to the woods." And I was like, "Really? What are we going to do in the woods?" He goes, "What do we always do in the woods?" And I'm like, "Well, go spend time with the in-laws or go spend some time in the woods." That was a pretty easy don't tell my wife I'm saying this, even after, since 2016, she still gets after me. But it was an easy choice for me. So I loaded up, and what ended up happening is they're from way South Texas, but there was another group of, I thought it was a group, turned out to be 2 individuals out of the Dallas area that wanted to go out in southeastern Oklahoma. And I'm not going to say that's my area because that's open country. That's everybody's area. But I was born in Hugo. I was raised in Antlers, Hootchatown, Broken Bow, Latimer County, all down through there. I mean, all my family, you start in McAllister, Ada, Oklahoma, and go all the way to Hot Springs, Arkansas, and it's all my family. And hunted and fished and coon hunted down through there, my whole life. And these guys knew it, and they knew that I was into the as we want to say, the cryptid community.
Oh, thank God you said that, Gary. I thought this was going to be one of them deliverance stories.
Oh my God. Hey, don't make me get my banjo. But anyways,
right. So you're hunting cryptids, okay?
We now you got me off my game here. I'm real weird about at that time, especially how I did things. I didn't tell people exactly where I was going, except for my safety crew, which was at that time was my real dad, my wife, and my very good friend. Everybody knows he's part of my team. Smiley, we call him, but the Canadian. And I told them where we was going. I didn't even tell these guys because at that time there was a lot of pranking going on, and there was that a certain group that was actually trying to run people out of the woods and stuff like that. So I didn't even tell these guys. I had them meet me at the store in Honubby, Oklahoma, and told them what time they'd be there. And come to find out, they was closer than I was, so they got there before me. So, but it was so funny when we pulled up, and I still talk to these guys some, and they've given me permission to tell the story. I've told this story for years this way, but when they got out of the car, you could definitely tell they was, of course, first impressions mean a lot, but wearing penny loafers and slacks and shirts and stuff like that. It looked like they'd just come out of a Boeing corporate office or something,
Lord.
And of course, they ended up changing into better clothes. But make a long story short, they did not look the part. Guys, I respect you and I love you, but they didn't even come to find out. They was to me, and I'm just saying this, they was the typical enthusiast. Yeah. There's a lot of good ones out there. I could name off a list of names of good researchers. To me, there's an enthusiast, and then you have investigators, and then researchers. Researchers are doing it very scientifically and stuff. And yes, I do believe in scientific format in this subject, but that's no whole nother story. But so I met them there, and we had decided. They said we want to go find evidence of the big hairy man, Sasquatch, and I said, well, there's no guarantees that we're going to see anything. But we can definitely get you into an area, a very popular area. And everybody knows about the story of the Siege of Zenobia. I took them on the ridge behind where the Siege of Zenobia happened, about, a mile back there. And back to the north, that ridge runs north and south behind them. And then they got a ridge that runs in front of them, in front of the where the cabins was.
Right.
And at that time, I didn't have access to the ridge in front of the cabins. And Randy Arrington, of all people, with dadgummit, Shane Carpenter, Randy Arrington from Ozark Mountain, Sasquatch, got me access to the front side. But anyways, we was on the back side, and they're part of this story actually. But we went up in there, and you got to drive up north of Zenobia and go around the dirt roads and cut back down in there. And when you come in there, you're, like I said, that ridge runs north and south behind where the cabins are. And I'm not going to tell the exact area because it's private property, but we got in there, and you have to park and walk in to what I call no man's land. When you drop off that ridge, you drop down in this valley, and it's a good 2 miles to way off down in the valley. And every time I went down there, and Randy had a real good, kind of an idea on that. He thinks that might be like where the family troop that did the Siege of Zenobia might be running around back in there, which I found out something later with him I'll get to. But every time we'd get back in there, we'd get whoops, we'd get, something, we'd find smudges or tracks or something. I've found a lot of tracks back there. So I took these guys, but when we pulled in and parked, They got out, put on nice hunting boots. I got to give them credit. They was all new boots. They wasn't broke in, but they at least had bought, put on good like tactical breeches, backpacks with good straps, with belly cinches. The only thing I could say is they was trying to carry folding chairs over the top of their packs. And I'm like, guys, you're going to get wore out because I'm a big guy, but one of them's bigger than me. And here they was kind of making fun of me. I got out with a Alice pack belt, an Alice belt with a canteen, a K-bar, and a 1911 on it, and then with the back pelt and the suspenders, and I've got a sleeping bag tied to it, and then an MRE, because we're only going to be there, that day or that night, all the next day, and then maybe the second night and come back out. But get to the point, we start hiking up through there, and the way that road goes is you kind of go up the ridge, and it kind of curves along this way on the ridge. Is what I call a two-track. Two-track's like an old logging road that has grown in, so Jeep trails and stuff go through it. So you've got grass, gravel, or dirt, and on either side, usually about, depending on it, 20, 30 feet wide. And we're tromping up through there, and we'd made it about 3/4 of a mile. But y'all got to understand, I didn't meet these guys until like 5:30, 6 o'clock. So it was already getting dark. By the time we ate there at the store, drove up there, them changing clothes and stuff, by the time we're moving into the woods, it's probably 9, 10 o'clock. And but the trail is pretty predominant. I mean, you'd have to be really not paying attention if you got headlamps and lights to get lost, because there's one way in and one way out if you stay on the trail. And I'm real keen, as Jeremiah will tell you, I'm real keen about, we try to stay together and with safety, but
right.
So we get about 3/4 of a mile up there, and there's this certain spot. It's kind of a washout where some of the gravel and stuff had come down and washed out of what I call a bowl. And then there's a big cedar tree, here's the slope comes this way, and it's kind of a little hollow in a bowl, and then a cedar tree here, and then it kind of goes on down the washout goes down the. Go ahead,
Gary. How many people in your party?
3.
There was 3 of you.
3 and 2 other males.
All right, so you had
40.
5 total?
No, 3 total.
Oh, just 3.
Me and 2 other males. I thought there was going to be more.
Oh.
And it turned out to just be the 2 of them. One was, at that time, one was 42, one was 49, and me. It's funny, I remember their ages, how old they was, and I was 38. Sorry.
So you went out there with 2 inexperienced newbies.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Do it all the time.
Brave man.
In that, I'll be honest with you, and a lot of people disagree with me, but I've been out with a lot of different groups down there. That's home for me. A lot of people go down there and get, as we would say, have problems with the local people. I don't. Mm-hmm. Everywhere I go, we go to a gas station and somebody recognizes me, or I drop a certain name, family name, that's our preachers in a certain church group down there, and there's that church dominates that whole sector of right. So everybody kind of knows me, and plus a lot of people don't understand too, unless you're just really being silly. If you go down there and treat people with respect, they'll treat you with respect.
Oh yeah.
And you walk down there with a southern drawl like I got. I mean, I'm at home there. They don't mess with me. I've never had no trouble out of the local people down there.
Think I do it right with a southern Jersey drawl?
Oh yeah, you get along down there. You get along good. You'd be surprised now because it's so packed with tourists. I mean, it's Bigfoot is a big tourist attraction in there now.
Yeah.
But so anyways, we stop at that hollow. It gotten to probably 11 o'clock, and I said it's not from this point on. It starts getting rough because you start dropping down into the valley. And I've just always had a thing about going in that. I've always hunkered down in that valley at night and then come out during the daytime. Or go in during the daytime. That's just something about it. Well, anyways, I said, let's just camp here for the night and we'll move on in the morning. And they was pretty tired. They'd worked, or been doing something all day. I don't know if they was working. I was working and then drove 5 hours to get there. And so we started setting up camp, and I started a little fire. And it was funny. I've always been a thing about cedar trees, man. I love sleeping under them. I roll up, put my mats. It's a survival thing. And so I just rolled my sleeping bag out underneath that cedar tree on the downhill slope with my feet that cedar tree was about this big around with my bottom of my sleeping bag up against that trunk of that cedar tree, because you never sleep with your head downhill. You'll wake up with a serious problem. So let's just say that headaches and everything else. And so my head was, kind of uphill right there at the edge of the road, and the cedar tree was over the top of me. And they started, I got to give them, they was pulling out food and everything else. And I'm just looking at them like, they set up their chairs and they're wanting to talk. And I'm like, guys, we need to get some sleep. I'm thinking this. And they're sitting there talking and stuff. And I was talking to them, and they kind of poked fun at me a little bit about, guys, I'm going to go to bed. And they said they was going to stay up and talk a little bit. They set their little 2-man pup tents up, 2 separate pup tents. It's just crazy stuff that I don't agree with, but I've learned not to judge, let y'all do your own thing. And so they did, and we're sitting there, and I had just slid into the sleeping bag, and I always take my boots off and put them right by my head. My pistol's usually here. My knife is underneath. I roll up my hoodie or something, or I use the toe of my boots, depending on how muddy they are, as a pillow. And I always sleep with my glasses on when I'm I've got a set of them, like military grade or sports grade, almost like goggles that I wear.
And with a band.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. I swear by them. And I always carry 2 or 3 extra pair of glasses.
You take your boots off. I don't.
For some reason, it depends on the situation. I mean, if I'm in a hot situation, I won't take my boots off. But when there's something about sliding down in a sleeping bag, I like my boots off, and I want to get a little comfortable. And once again, though, y'all got to understand, this is home for me. I spent most of my life in these hills, Yeah. And it's just normal. But anyways, I had just slid my butt into the sleeping bag. And up the ridge, that ridge where we were sitting, it was probably 200 yards, pretty steep degree to the top of the ridge. And that would have been running to the to the east, sorry. You come down the ridge to the west, hit that little hollow, and it drops west down in the west into the valley. And we heard a pop. And, once again, being used to that area, it could have been a rock sliding or anything. Well, these guys are like, "Ooh, you hear that?" And all of a sudden, here we go. Everybody's, how that happens. Everybody's like, getting ready. And we heard a total of probably 3 wood knocks up on that ridge, and they was moving. You could tell that, like, pop here, and then like an answer over here, and answer over here. And within, you can't tell with the trees and stuff, but I would say, in my personal opinion, once again, folks, this is all personal opinion. Don't take none of this to the bank. It's one of them, you had to have been there. But probably 150, 200 yards away, up that ridge, because they was, down on either side of us. And so they was talking a little bit, and then we got a whoop. And boy, these guys are getting fired up now, And I'll be honest with you, I was too. Sure. But some reason I've always been, if I hear stuff like that, I always get quiet, and I just steel myself. And these guys, I got to give them credit, man. They wasn't making a lot of noise. They was talking quietly. And one thing that they was making fun of me about is when we was sitting around the campfire, I was sitting with my back to the fire, looking down the hill.
Yeah, you don't want to get blinded by the fire.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't know that, and there's like, turn around and talk to us. Yeah, they're like, turn around and talk to us. And I said, no, I'll talk to you just like this. I'm not going to ruin my night vision.
See, Gary, let's keep that idea for the other show.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I'm laying in the sleeping bag, and it's probably 15 foot from my head to the campfire. Their tents are probably 10, 20 foot the other side of the campfire. I thought they put their tents a little close to the campfire because they might have caught, embers hit them. But we was listening, concentrating up that ridge. I mean, I even had my head kind of to the side like this, but something dropped a couple of pebbles about, probably, it could have been, 50 feet below me, but it sounded like it was just on the other side of that tree. And I'm like, I cranked my head back this way, and I just freeze, and I'm sitting there. These guys are talking quietly, and you can still hear, the every once in a while a pop and stuff up here. I laid there quietly for, I think, probably a good 3 or 4 minutes. And I'm going to tell you, it's, once again, it's personal reflection, but I swear I heard something belly crawling or coming up that slope. And I honestly, to this day, think that it got within 10 or 15 feet of me. Yeah. But I honestly don't think that it knew that I was underneath that cedar tree. And what I think is it was going to come up that cedar tree and just come up over that ridge enough to where he could see us, you know. And this thing, it could have been farther than that. You never know because it's dark there, and cedar, you know how cedar trees drop to the ground, but it sounded like he was right on the other side of the cedar tree, you know. I just could picture later on something reaching around and grabbing my feet, you know. And at this point up the hill, we heard whoop and then rock getting thrown down the hill. And let's just say that this big boy come up from underneath that cedar tree quickly, because it was different when they're, you know, 100 yards away and being active. But when you hear something, I don't care what it is, trying to be quiet and coming up on you, it changes the whole dynamics of the feeling. You know, it's like, I'm not saying that it was malicious, but this is definitely different, you know, the dynamics. And I slid out of that thing and I looked at the boys and I said, fellas, there's something coming up the slope. And they was like, what? I was like, yeah, there's something coming up the slope sneaking in on us. I said, we need to get moving. And I got on your ass. I guess the threat level assessment is different when you have certain experience levels than when you don't. These guys started setting up their tent. I mean, starting pulling down their tent and packing their stuff up. And I'm sitting here, my stuff strapped on with my, you know, shaking. Guys, come on. It's time to go. Because it seemed like once we made that move to start moving, that these things started acting a little different. We had a little bit of escalation of the noises and the whoops. And I heard one of the most unique calls that night. And, you know, it's funny, I haven't said this before, but me and Dad was talking about it and I was going through my notes on it. I heard like a little gurgling, like a kind of a fluttering wail that we've heard since then down there. It almost sounds like a bird, but a
warble type of
like a warbling sound. Yeah, like a
yeah. I was with a group, we had the same thing, and it seemed like they were closing in after they did that. Well, I don't know what happened with you guys.
It's funny you say that because they finally got the stuff packed up, and I'm real weird about certain tactical things. You know, I knew the trail, so I pulled point, and I had a headlamp, and I had a pretty one of the big 6-cell mag lights, the long ones. Yeah. At this time, we didn't have a lot of the lights that we have now.
Oh man,
yeah, we're going to do a show on that.
Big difference.
Woo. Yes, but I gave the one guy, I'll say his first name. His name's Jeff. The other one said he didn't really want his name, but I gave Jeff the mag light, and I said, "You come behind me." And then the other guy, he had a headlamp, and I said, "You get behind us, and we're heading out of here." And of course, we didn't run, we didn't, you know, go barreling through the woods like a horror show or nothing. But we started moving out at a fairly decent clip. And these things, I asked the guys later after I talked to them a few days later, because as you'll find out in the situation, that I did something very dramatic that I shouldn't have done later. We started moving out. These things started paralleling us up the ridge. Behind us, you could hear them paralleling the trail, and they was breaking twigs, snapping, knocking the trees. And then when we had started moving back down, probably 150, 200 yards, you could hear something paralleling us on the ridge below us. And at this point, even the guys was noticing it. Now, Jeff told me, I was kind of looking at the trail, because I'll get to that in a second. I got very upset. I was kind of looking down and looking at the trail, looking at something. And he says he swore he seen something cross the road in front of us, probably 20, 10 or 15, 20 yards out with his flashlight. And it had timed itself to where I was looking down, because my headlamp, I don't know if y'all ever seen them. Have you ever seen the coon hunting helmets with the big headlamp and the battery pack on your back? They got better than that now, but at that time, that was like a $300 coon hunting light. That's what I used. And he said it crossed the trail going down the ridge in front of us. So we started moving out. But what I was looking at, of all things, and I had to kind of make peace with these guys and tell them I have to tell this part of the story. Little Debbie wrappers. I had made a notice at the camp that they was eating Little Debbie's and throwing the plastic into the fire. Yeah. That is something even to this day that I just despise. Paper is fine, cardboard, but don't throw plastic into the fire. If you bring plastic in, take plastic out. It's just one of my pet peeves. I'm sorry. And they all the way up there, I wasn't paying attention. That's my fault. They was eating Little Debbie snacks and just leaving them. They admitted to it a couple of days later. That really set me off. When I found that out at the time, it didn't set me off. That was the last thing on my mind, but I was looking at that Little Debbie snack, and I guess that's when it took off. So we ended up making all the way back. These things paralleled us to within probably 100 yards of our cars.
So time out.
Go ahead.
The Little Debbie snacks, just for the audience, that's indicative of the fact that they picked them up back at your former camp and they dropped them off in front of you in your forward path. They give you a notification that they knew where you were.
That very well could have been. I never got verification from Jeff and them that they was dropping them. I just assumed, but I would agree with you that these guys can cover ground good enough.
Yeah.
That they could have looped around us all day long. I've seen it since then,
easily.
So we get, like I said, within probably 100, 150 yards to the cars, you come off that ridge and it kind of opens up a little bit and it stair steps down to another ridge. And that's where I had taken, and that's where we had parked the trucks in kind of this open area. And that's where I took Shane and Randy from Ozark Mountain Sasquatch a few years back, and I took them and showed them this. And I got one of the most wonderful things happen to me. I'll get to. But we come back and we get to the cars and I'm like, okay, guys, let's pack up and go home. They're like, no, we're going to set up camp and we're going back in the morning to see if we can find some tracks. Yeah. I said, guys, you don't understand. These guys followed us out of the woods. They don't want us in there. And we had stuff similar to that happen before, but not at that level. We've had them follow us from, I call it no man's land, down in that valley, completely up to the top of the hill and hoop and hollers. And then I still like to go there and I'll get up on top of that ridge and I'll beller out, do a call blast or something and just hear them light up back here,
See now, and I'll have Jay bear me out on this or correct me, either one. But these guys you took, they evidently are of the mindset that Bigfoot and any other cryptid is only out at nighttime in the dark. We'll go back in the daytime. Well, I've got news for you. All the research I've done over the past 10 plus years.
It don't matter.
It doesn't matter. Also awake during the daytime.
Yeah.
They might hibernate for some hours. Yeah. Maybe they rest. But that doesn't mean that when they went back to that campsite to go see Bigfoot or Sasquatch, they might very well see Bigfoot and Sasquatch.
Well, I think in the daytime, they're a little bit more, the target species is a little bit more predominantly hiding because they don't want to be seen.
Right.
But a big factor that a lot of people don't understand, any animal on this planet besides humans can function long-term times. For some animals, giraffes only sleep like 15 minutes at a time a night.
That's right.
The reason humans have to sleep so much is because of our Magellan.
Yep.
My dog, he acts like he's sleeping all day long, but he's not. He's only every 15, 20 minutes, we function with a lot of sleep. Animals don't have to. And if what think we're learning, and I rephrase that, I restate that, if what we think we are learning, these things rotate. They have certain individuals out at daytime while the rest of them are resting. Lion troops do it. Chimpanzees do it. But
hyenas do it.
Absolutely.
Our military does it. I mean,
oh yeah.
Gary, when you guys were down, didn't you have guys up?
Absolutely.
On guard?
My research team now.
Come on.
My research team now, anytime we're in the woods, we have rotation patterns.
Right.
It's 100% set in stone. It's
my field investigation team that I take, which is the guys from work. We set out anywhere from 2 to 3 guys while we take 7. 4 are down, 3 are up. You know, 4 are down, 3 are up. Always. The only rotation you get is that third man goes in, somebody comes up. So you have 3 guys up at all times.
Or you're doing, I don't have that. I've just now got that many members of my team.
We have that. We've always had that luxury, and all the guys are used to that anyway.
Yeah.
But
because most of your guys are contract or military, ex-military.
Former, yes.
Yes. I still use X. I'm sorry. Matter of fact,
the thing is safety first.
Absolutely.
And you know what else? You know what else we travel with? An 18 Delta.
Really?
Always travel with an 18 Delta. Yeah. We've been doing that for the last 2 years now.
I don't have that kind of facilitations. I don't have, that kind of people, closest thing to what we got is my combat medic training. But back on the deal, I've never had that kind. I always try to be as safe as I can. And this is one trip that I just abandoned it. And I'll get to that. So we get back to the campsite and they're like, we're going to go back in the morning. And I don't know if y'all, any of y'all that know me, especially Nick and Jeremiah, I'm ex-Army Ranger. And we kind of got this thing. I'm not going to say like the SEALs. I'll never disrespect a SEAL and quote that no man gets left behind because that's a SEAL thing. But we have something similar to that is safety first. And we always help our brother.
That's what my guys do the same thing. It's safety first. I don't care what. I mean, if we suddenly find that, it's never happened, but if we suddenly find that there are like 2 packs of coyotes coming in on us, we might just leave that area and we're going to let down some bear spray so that they won't follow. Just leave that area. It's safety first.
Yeah.
Go home first.
See, I take a little bit of a different path than that myself especially if it's me and my personal team. We do a more neutral, less imprint. We don't we just move back, but in that situation, like we did with these guys, is we just moved out of the area. Right. But so we got to the cars and they was like, we're going to go back in the morning. I said, okay, I guess I'll stay here with you. This was by this time, it's probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know how late it was. It was late. And they're like setting their tents back up. And I'm like, guys, y'all have fun.
Sleep in your car. Come on.
At that time, I had a 1988 Chevy 4-wheel drive, single cab, 3/4 ton with a 3-inch body lift with 33 1250s. And I'm saying that for a reason. Keep that in mind. Big jacked up redneck truck.
Right.
383 stroker in it. I'm a mechanic and I love the hot rod and stuff. I had a big motor in it, kind of a hot rod. But make a long story short, I'm short. I'm 5'9", 5'9.5", and I sleep on my side in the fetal position. So I can sleep in a big seat of a truck easy. And so I just slid in there, threw my sleeping bag over the top of me. Didn't have my truck running or nothing because it was cold, but it wasn't real cold. It was like in the 40s and the 50s. Oh. And I had the old military mummy bag, and I just unzipped it and just laid it over the top of me. And when I was in my truck, thinking I was safe, quotations, took my goggles off, put my regular glasses on for a few minutes, getting everything set. I've got a compartment or a pouch on the front of my seat. It's one of those Native American blanket seat covers that you get from like LMC, and they've had them since the 90s with the pocket there. I stuck my 45 in it, my K-bar next to it. Boots I've got my head up against the driver's side door, so the steering wheel's right here. Take my glasses off. I always take my glasses and loop them and stick them in the top of my, like if this is the top of your boot, I loop my glasses on the inside without everybody does it that wears glasses in the field. And I'm laying there asleep. Well, I had fell asleep. Well, some point of time later, something woke me up. Now, I know I've talked to a lot of people in this field and a lot of people that's been in the military or had certain amount of training or spend time outdoors. When you get woke up, they don't just jump up and, oh my God, they quietly look around and stuff. And I've always been that way before I'd done the military. I'm laying there, something woke me up. Now, keep in mind, my head is up against the driver's side door. So the armrest on that Chevy is right here. So it puts the bottom of the window right here. The back cab glass is right here. I mean, I can reach up and touch them both. The windshield is right here, about 24 to 30 inches away from me.
Now I got to correct you on something, Gary. Right here. Come on, bro.
But
all right, so he's not seeing your face or anything. He is seeing the rest of your body covered by the mummy wrap there.
The way I sleep, and I do it even now, it can be 100 degrees outside. If I have a blanket, if I've got a hat, the reason I do that, as a kid, I had a bee land in my ear.
Ooh.
And it stung me inside my ear. So subconsciously, when I'm sleeping, I have to have something covering my ear. So you picture,
you know you're a redneck when you sleep with your hat on the side of your head.
I have something on the side of my head and this ear on the ground. It's just weird. When I'm sleeping, my wife, she's many a picture of me curled up with a sheet over my. But so you picture laying in the seat of this truck.
Yeah.
All you're seeing is a bulge. Well, it's now key point. It being cold outside, the windows was kind of fogged up. So something woke me up. I'm laying here like this, and the first thing I do is slip my hands out, grab my glasses, and pop them on my face. Anybody that wears glasses, that's the first thing you do instinctively is get your glasses on. And I'm laying there, and I don't know how long I had laid there, maybe just a few seconds. It could have been a minute or two. And something made me look. So you picture again, the armrest of the truck door is right here. The window is about right here, the bottom of the window. So I raise up like this and look up. And when I do, I turn and look like this. And if you take the side picture of a window of a truck, you know, that window, say if the steering wheel's here, if you're facing out the window, the back glass is here. And then you have this window ended up measuring is from the front to the back on 88 Chevy is 32 inches.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the windshield over here. So you're 3 layers of glass that you can see out. All I seen was a shadow, something black, but it was shaped like this. But what was bad, you picture this shaped like this.
Filling the whole glass.
And then some.
Yep.
And then some.
You can see the shoulder out the back glass and see a shoulder out the front glass. So this thing is broader than that cab is deep. And I swear to you, I'll say it. I don't care. This thing was this far from the glass. And now here's the deal. That truck was 6 feet tall. I know it because we measured it. Me and Dad went back and measured it. This thing was hunched down, looking in the glass like this.
Wow.
So I'm seeing, here's my head. He is right here. So I raise up and I'm looking at him. So he's about this far away from me.
About 18 inches, would you say?
About 18, probably 18 to 22, you know.
Yep.
And it was dark, of course, but it was the eastern, the way my truck was sitting, I was facing, the windshield was facing the east, and you got that ridge line there where you can see the gray light coming up over the top of. The reason I know that is because here in a minute I'll tell you what happened, and I watched the sun come up. I seen this. I don't know how long we looked at each other, but I remember he'd breathe and it'd fog up the window a little bit. I didn't see full facial features, but I seen kind of hair coming down. The biggest thing I seen was his nose and his nostrils. I could have stuck my thumb in each one of those nostrils. That nose was and the head was so big. If you pictured a truck window this big, his head compared to mine was like this.
Wow.
You know, and his shoulders sticking out in the windshield. You could see him through the windshield and see the doorpost coming down. But he didn't open his mouth or nothing. But I seen his teeth. He did have I didn't see a sagittal crest because of the way, you know, he was kind of hunkered down. I seen the eyes. I seen this part of the head, and I seen his eyes kind of sunk back in. And now later on, at this point that I'm remembering, but as we started telling the story, I actually went through some regressive hypnotherapy and stuff. We actually was able to pull the lies out, and I had a great opportunity of working with my mind went to blank. Larry Batson. He's a sketch artist, like a forensic sketch artist, and working with Steve from England, your buddy Steve.
Oh, Baxter.
Steve Baxter.
Yeah, great guy, yeah.
And then also Larry Baxton. and they did renderings of this, and I should have sent it to you so we could post it. And it was uncanny how close they get it, because with me being able to do that therapy and stuff, we was able to remember a lot more. But anyways, I'm looking at him, and I don't know how long I looked at him. I'll be honest with you. I screamed. I defecated myself. I found out later, and I pissed myself. But I reached down, and this is the weirdest thing for me. I reached, my training kind of kicked in, but just the initial shock and scream. I don't know how much I screamed, but I reached to grab the 45, and I never took eyes off of it. I automatically reached for that 45, and I swear to you, on my dead grandfather's grave, this thing was hunched down and this far from the glass, and it looked at me. It did like this. It did like this, and it went, kind of blew out. I guess he was huffing to get up. He stood up, and I heard 3 distinct crunch, 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 crash into the brush.
Yeah, you knew what it was.
At that point, I don't know how long I sat there, probably just seconds. I fired up that truck, dropped that thing in drive, and I slung gravel for probably half a mile.
And left those other 2 guys over there.
That is what bugs me. That bugs me to my core. I drove, I didn't even stop at Hanobia.
Where were they sleeping, Gary? Were they in the tents?
They was in their tents. They was in their tents. Like, if you was to look at this opening, my truck was backed with the back of the truck down the ridge. We're sitting on the north end of that ridge, kind of on a stair step. I was facing the east. Their car was just off of my passenger side door about 30 feet. And they had their tents set up on the front side of their car was parked that same way. So like, if my truck was here, their car was here, and this thing was standing here. So it was on the opposite side of the cars, but their tents was set up in stair step in front of that car. And when I took out, the way out was this way. So he stood up, went straight behind me, which would have been to the west. I fired up and went straight out the deal. But
did you see how far up he was? I mean, was he at chest level when he stood up, belly button level?
I was gonna get to that. When he stood up and I started to slide up into the seat, I threw the deal off of me. But when he stood up, the top of that truck hit him about right here.
Wow.
Oh, so we're talking about 11-footer maybe.
We measured, we figured if the top of the truck is 6 foot, me and Shane and Randy recreated it. Me and my dad recreated it the first time, and then me and Shane and Randy created it. Randy's a big guy. I'm a big guy, but Randy's, he's bench presses like over 500 pounds, and he stood there, and we literally had to put Randy, I think Randy's 5'10". We had to put him on the side of Randy's truck that had what do you call them? Running boards, to get him close. Even the top of his truck came to like here on Randy. But we figured that if at 6 foot to here, he was a 9-footer at least.
9-footer then.
Big
his
boy.
Shoulders, we was able to, in comparison with my truck, because I had that truck for years. I just got rid of that truck like 2 years ago. I have the equivalent of it now. I've always kept a 88 to a 95 Chevrolets. That's my favorite body style. I love them. Yeah. And but we figured his shoulders was 4.5 to 5.5 feet across.
That's a big boy.
Yes.
That's a big boy.
So,
I mean, folks, look at your ceiling right now. You probably have an 8-foot ceiling. Add a foot to that, and what Gary's talking about.
If he was
big,
if he was to stand in here,
and when we're talking width-wise, 4.5 to 5 feet. I mean, my God, my God, that's huge.
Well,
Gary,
I tell you what.
Could you estimate a weight, if you had to?
I will get to that. Coming back to the tracks, but just give everybody an idea. I'm 5'10". I weigh 275 pounds. I bench press almost 300 pounds.
Yeah.
From here to here is 33 inches.
Yep.
His shoulders like this. I'm a big guy. If he was to step in this room, a 6-foot ceilings, he'd have to do this. But so when I left out of there, I drove to Clayton, Oklahoma, to the big store. There's a 24-hour store there, and I pulled in there. And I will tell you this, that truck would fly. And I was pushing every bit of it that she'd go. I don't know how fast I was going, but I know I was going as fast as she'd go. And I sat there for about 20 minutes with tears in my eyes, crying. I mean, I'll be honest. And I called the one man that was still alive that I respected at the time, and I called my father. And he just flat out told me, he says, and he could tell something was wrong. You know, folks, I've jumped into Bosnia. I'm one of the few people that's actually been bayoneted since World War II. I've got scars on me I was literally bayoneted. I do hold a Purple Heart. Trained. I'm not going to say I'm the best in the world, but I was one of the best with some of the best men on this planet, and that's the United States military. Still the greatest country in the world. Sorry, I'll get on a tangent. I wear this with pride. But anyways, he said, come home. And the farm's only about, 2 or 3 hours from there. I said, I've got to go back and get them other guys. He said, you don't want to know the exact words. He said, come home. Because he knew that I wasn't going to be in any capable of shape. So I went home, drove home smelling like feces, sat down and drank a cup of coffee with my father, told him what happened. First thing he did, he handed me a notebook and a piece of paper about like this size. And he said, write it down. That's one thing that we've always been taught, even in survival world in the military. You always take notes. You write stuff down. Nick, you know that too, as well as anybody.
As soon as you can.
Yeah.
Gotta do the debrief.
But what I did do, as soon as I got off the phone with my dad, he said, call him. Because we had cell phone service then. It's 2016, folks, and we're not that far out. We're not in the Pacific Northwest. I called Jeff and I said, hey, man, what's happening? He goes, man, what happened? And I didn't want to tell him, I was just going to try to feel him out. I said I had a family emergency. I had to get out of there fast. He goes, okay. He said, well, man, we're just on leave. I said, you're still there? He goes, yeah. And he could tell something in my voice. He goes, is there something wrong? I said, no. I said, I just don't feel comfortable with y'all going over that hill without me, and I can't go over the hill with you. I said, I've got to get back to my farm and I'll say that in the Ada area. I got to get back to my farm quickly. We had some serious problems. He goes, well, man, we're just gonna head home. He goes, but man, what a night. I slept better last night than I've slept in a long time. And I'm thinking, you son of a bitch. I said, did y'all see anything or hear anything since we got back to the cars? And he said, no. I said, did you see anything when I left out? No. He says, all we seen was gravel. He goes, you woke us up with that loud ass exhaust and you slung gravel all over everything. I said, okay.
Emergency, that's all.
I didn't know what else to do.
Oh, that was the best thing to tell them, really. You can't tell them what happened. No.
And, well, I ended up, a few days later, but anyways, and oh, believe me, they was upset. It took them like 6 weeks to even talk to me again because they wanted to see it. And I'm like, no, you don't want to see it.
No.
But so I went to Dad's and sat there a little bit and I didn't know what else to do. I was like, what do I do? He says, do what you always do. Face your fears. Loaded up a bigger gun and went back. And we measured the footprints. We found where my truck, it was very easy to tell where my truck was. I left ruts that deep, from slinging around sideways. And we could see where they started. And we sat right there. And it was, what was so cool is that was almost the perfect substrate if it was soft clay and sand underneath with gravel on top. And we found the imprints. They was 16 to 17 inches long, depending on which stride it was of the 3 strides. And his stride pattern was now, of course, you got to keep in mind, he was moving, was not over 9 foot. That was from like 9 to 10 foot.
When an individual runs that rather than walk, you're going to have a larger stride, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you could definitely tell when he spun and took off that back foot, it dug in and it had a blowout pressure points coming back. Yeah. And make a long story short, it looked like a moose went through the brush. And I'm looking at going, do I go in or do I go home? And I decided to go home. Yeah. It took me and Randy and Shane, don't quote me if I'm wrong, I think it was 2018 going on 2019 before I went back. And I went back with Randy and Shane, and it took them weeks to talk me into going back. Me and Shane are still very close. Shane is like you, Jeremiah. He's a brother of mine, and I respect Randy 100%. We've kind of grown apart because of personality differences and not philosophy differences, but not even theology, but practice difference. But I still respect his opinion. I respect him. He gave me one of the most wonderful things. I'm telling this story to them. They're the first ones that I told this to. And I took them there and I showed them. And Randy goes, "It's awful funny." I said, "What's that?" He goes, "About 250 yards down this ridge." And I knew the exact tree he was talking about because he pointed the trail out. He said, "I built a tree stand up there." And he goes, "I watched about a 9 or 10 footer come in underneath me one night on that tree." And I looked at the man and I said, "Really?" He goes, "I ain't got no reason to lie to you. You got a reason to lie to me?" And I literally started crying and hugged the man because he gave me confirmation in something that happened, and that to me, because even to this day, I question Jeremiah, as well as anybody, Nick, you too. I question, what the heck did I see?
Yeah. How far up was his tree stand? I'm just curious.
If I recall right, you might have to ask him, but I think he said his tree stand was probably 13, 15 feet up. It was pretty high up.
Because I got a buddy of mine that hunts deer in Jersey, and his is about 20, 22 feet up.
Well, now you got to understand, this was a tree stand for Bigfoot, not for Randy doesn't hunt deer. He was down there doing Bigfoot research.
That's for a Bigfoot tree stand.
Yeah, he was down there actually doing Bigfoot research, and he heard the thing come in. And Randy has got some of the most conclusive evidence from what's funny, about 2.5 miles to the west, the other ridge. It's on YouTube. You can look up Randy J. Arrington,
right?
Randy H. Arrington, Ridge Walker video, and it's interesting. But but so make a long story short, it took, we went back and I was able to discuss it with them, and then I told my story to you guys the first time. But I weeks later I ended up contacting Jeff, and I almost said his name and I caught myself. Contacted them, and we was able to kind of make peace and stuff. But I told him what happened, and I have to kind of laugh at him a little bit. He goes, "You're right. I didn't want to see that."
No.
Most
people don't want to see it. They want to, but they don't want to.
Yeah, that's what I tell people.
And then if they're lucky enough to see,
I have seen them at a distance before and after a few times, not a whole lot. It's not like I go out I've been researching 24, 25 years, and I've had one Class A sighting and probably two, at a distance that could be what it is. But I seeing them at a distance is a whole lot different than waking up and seeing one,
up close and personal.
It's a hell of a lot different.
Yeah.
Under 2 feet away, that's a little bit different.
I tell you how bad it is. And if my wife was here, Jeremiah knows, I could bring her in and she'd sit right here and tell you, she's been dealing with, I'm a veteran. I'm a combat vet, combat arms, combat vet. I have PTSD. But my PTSD from that until 2018, 2019, when we went back down there, was worse than my combat PTSD. That's the reason I have so much respect, and I'm pushing so hard that you don't have to be a veteran to have PTSD. You don't have to be in combat to have PTSD. People have PTSD from a dog bite or from a traumatic wreck or something that happened in their childhood, and it affects everybody.
Absolutely.
But my wife will sit right here and tell you that about 3 weeks after that, she was snoring one night, and I shoved her out of the bed. I quit sleeping with my pistol underneath my pillow at that point in time. I shoved her out of the bed, and when she come back up, I had the pistol. And at that point, I said, enough is enough. And that's when I started really digging into this. Jeremiah, as you know, my whole research aspects changed. It became not a passion, but a determination for me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It affects you. Like you said, Nick,
you can't unsee it.
You can't. I tell people, I want to see one. I'm like, be careful what you wish for. You
might just get it. Yep.
I know, Jeremiah, you've had that up close and personal. Nick, I don't know what I do. I tell you all the time, and I'll tell anybody. Bigfoot, I'll do a Bigfoot all day long. if I ever see a dog man, I don't know how many bullets it would take to put him down, but I'll know how many I'll use. And that's every one of them, because I'm that terrified of the idea. I've never seen one. I think I've seen a track. If I've seen one,
I've had the, I don't want to say the pleasure, but I've had the experience of seeing one close up and in person. And then I was with DA Roberts.
Yep.
I saw another one fleetingly. DA saw it head on. I saw it out of my peripheral. It was big. And then I saw it, and then I saw another one another time. It was just ahead, but it's like 3 times. So 1 was an encounter, 2 was sightings. But I mean, I can't understand people that are less equipped than myself psychologically to want to see these things.
Very well put.
I want people, and I keep saying this time and again, and I want to hear people tell me that they've done what I'm requesting. I really want people to go to the zoos, go to the grizzly bear or brown bear exhibits, go to a polar bear. If you go to a brown bear exhibit, you'll see an 8-foot grizzly bear, 8 feet. This is terrifying. They're 1,200 pounds.
Yeah.
You go to, if you're lucky enough to go to a place that has, I'm sorry, I got too loud.
No, you're fine.
No, you're good.
Lucky enough to go to a zoo. Go to the Washington, D.C., go to the National Zoo. You'll see a polar bear. You want to see something 12 feet tall? Okay. That's comparable. Actually, it's not even comparable to a Bigfoot that's 12 feet tall. A Bigfoot is wider than a polar bear.
You know what I tell people? Of course, being here in Oklahoma, I say, go find the biggest horse you can find. Walk up to him, walk up to his neck, where you can reach up and touch his ears, where we call the weather, the bulge on their shoulders. Most horses are 15, 16 hands, which are 5.5, 6 feet tall. I said, stand and look over that, and then reach as far as you can towards the hips without getting kicked, and reach as far as you can to the nose, and then picture another 6 foot.
Have you ever seen a 23 hands horse?
I actually owned a Percheron stud that was 22, weighed 2,350 pounds. I got pictures. Woo. Wonderful horse. But on the dog man, now folks, I'm going to say this, and this is where I got respect for Nick. I train dogs. That's what I do. My tracking skills has always been dogs. Y'all can follow my channel and see Scout.
One hell of a dog, people. He's got one hell of a Belgian.
Unbelievable.
I know the behaviors of dogs, pack animals. For part of my training, I went to Yellowstone National Park and watched with a certain group of people that studied pack 117 in Yellowstone. And I stayed out there for 3 weeks because I'm big into the survival world and all that too. I love to camp. I know pack behavioral. I know dog and canine behaviors. So when you take that, everybody talks about Bigfoot and them being human. Well, that's fine. But when you know dogs like I do, and know the little tenacities that dogs have, know the behavioral patterns that dogs have, know the damage that dogs can do, because my dog he's a trained attack dog. I did it in the military. I did it for the Department of Corrections. I do it even now for some of the police departments. I know what they can do. You take my dog at 70 pounds, he can run 42 miles an hour, and he hits you with 1,600 foot-pounds of pressure with his body. And then when he latches down onto you, he's hitting you with 485 foot-pounds. He broke my wife's arm.
Which is why in the military we call them hair missiles.
Absolutely.
Because when they jump and they're going straight at you like a missile.
You take the mechanics. A dog at 3 foot tall, at 70 pounds, can run 43 miles an hour. You take something that's 9 feet tall, you can quadruple that speed. I don't care what anybody says, it's biomechanics. And then you take the nozzle. I've heard of people saying nozzles 12 to 14 inches long, and biomechanically, these things can crush bone, and then you take their mentality, supernatural aside.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. If I see a dog man, you probably will have to scoop me up with a pile of manure because I'm probably going to, for lack of better terms, crap myself and have a heart attack. I want to believe that Dogman does not exist, but I know people like Nick and Jeremiah and too many other people that has seen them. I don't want to face one. It's hard enough dealing with a Bigfoot, locking eyes with a Bigfoot and seeing that the I don't understand. And folks, y'all want to hate me for this. I don't care. I don't understand how people can, I understand that these things could be a people. They have that kind of intelligence, talking about Sasquatch.
Yeah.
But I don't understand why you want to go out and have a physical
encounter with them or a Sasquatch.
These things are avoiding us for a reason.
Yep.
I don't think, I'm sorry. If you're mind, I'm not going to say that it's not happened because I believe in demons. I believe in ghosts. I'm a paranormal researcher. But if you're having mind speak relationships with this thing, please reevaluate your psychological and your spiritual beliefs. Because if anything wanted to mind speak, he should have been mind. He could have said, "Hey, dude, how you doing?" But he didn't, man. I don't understand how people want to go walk out and hug I love how Duke puts it from World Bigfoot Radio. Don't hug the Wookiee. You know.
Right. Yeah.
The Wookiee might hug back and crush you in a half second.
That's safely.
No, I can't see how somebody would want to go out into the woods looking for a Sasquatch. He looks up, thinks it's a tree, and it's 9+ feet tall.
9 feet. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Here's my deal. Both cryptids, or cryptids in general, let's just put it flat out. If this is true, I question my own sanity sometimes. I seen one this far away. What I seen was 100% real. But if these things are real, they're avoiding us for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can get into this whole thing about, flesh and blood, but could they possibly be from another dimension? Did they get
very well could be.
Could they have gotten here through another dimension through a portal?
They could be.
They disappear so easily. Are they alien race where they go up into a spacecraft and are beamed back down?
Very well could.
No, it's very well possible. I mean, there's so much we can do. We've run out of time actually on this show, but we can really talk about that part of it. And Gary, if you come back, we would love to discuss
I will, but I want to leave everybody with this.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm 100% about the natural, but I can literally verify with Nick. Nick knew nothing about it. I was sitting in eastern Oklahoma, western Arkansas, and had crazy anomalous lights, and that had one of the most not as dramatic, but a very dramatic experience with Sasquatch. And he had a team on the ground within 20 miles of us, and they seen this same anomalous lights.
Same thing.
Same ones.
And no coordination at all. He didn't know I was there. I didn't know they was there. We was talking after that. And when he told me, I'm like,
not at all.
That gave me verification,
I think we were within 18 miles.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's something. That really is. Which brings us to the fact that a lot of the research I've done with Dogman and Bigfoot, a lot of people see lights in the air before, after, or before and after. So what's going on? Are those lights spacecraft, or are they portals, or are they something else that we don't know?
Absolutely.
That's the reason why we do the research. We don't do this for money, people. We do this for the research, for the love of cryptozoology. I know Jay does it for that reason. And definitely, it's an amazing world out there. We're trying to find some answers. We'd like to find one.
Yeah. Every time you find one, you find 20 more questions.
I know. That's what I was just fixing to say. Y'all hear me say this all the time privately. The more I learn, the more I find out that I don't know.
Absolutely.
It's the less I know. Every time we think we find an answer, there's 20 more questions.
Gary, you should be going out there with your 458 SOCOM loaded and maybe what is that? A 457 Cazul
No, my big one is I've got the 454 Casull, but I've been carrying a hot loaded 45 long colt with and it's funny, y'all laugh at me. I should have brought one with me. I goofed off and put silver nitrate in some of my hollow points.
Nice. No, hey, that's perfect. That's perfect.
But you know, I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm just saying this, and I tell people, please be careful. And we're gonna do a series of shows about safety on my channel with Nick and Jeremiah.
Please.
As big as this thing was, I honestly believe that if he'd have wanted me, my 45 auto 1911, all 9 rounds, it might have put him down eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But he could have wadded me up, folded me up, and shoved me in the tailpipe.
Just remember, folks, with a regular animal, let's talk about a big old grizz who's 8 feet tall. You've got the hide, that's super tough, thick. Then you got to go through the fat, which is about 4 inches. Then you got to go through the muscle, about 4 to 6 inches. Then the bones, which are about yay thick. I mean, seriously, you can't put these things down easily.
No.
You know, hunters know this for a fact. And we're talking about a bear. Now, you're talking about a 9-foot Bigfoot. And, oops, Gary went away. But I think he's still there someplace.
Yeah, he's still there.
But, Jay, really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. And you and I have talked about that 15-footer.
No.
That they also had experienced a big Bigfoot guy, which, once again, I can't say his name, but only because he's got it all copyrighted, his information. But the guy from Alaska, he went to Alaska and he found a 15-footer.
Yeah.
I mean, in my brain, 3,000 pounds, 15 foot tall. How wide could shoulders be on a 15-footer?
No.
I mean, you know, and what are you going to do with something like that?
The 10-footer Stacy saw, she swears the shoulders were 6 feet across. And that's on a 10-footer.
That's phenomenal. Gary, were you able to hear what we were saying?
Yeah, I had to, my dog alerted on somebody at the front door. I had to. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Let me tell you a quick little story. We was hog hunting 2 weeks ago. I watched my best friend in the world bounce a 300 blackout that I loaded hot. Bounced 2 of them off of the skull of a pig.
Oh my God. Wow. How big was this? How big was this little baby?
Oh, he wasn't 175 pounds.
Oh, that's it.
God.
Yeah. Wow. Once he got past, you was talking about the bone.
Yeah.
Once he got past the skull and got into the neck and stuff, we're part of right now. Oklahoma has over one key point with Sasquatch.
Yeah, you guys got a lot of
1.5. We're number 3 in the nation. 1.5 million pigs. It seems like we're having more sightings and stuff. Maybe the Sasquatch are kind of bulking up with the pigs. They're maybe a predator species. Right. But the whole point is we're part of a wild pig eradication.
Yeah.
Sure.
Great program.
I heard that, and it's like going crazy in Oklahoma. Yeah. The wild pigs out there. They're dangerous, folks. They're dangerous. Don't come after you.
But in saying that, anybody that's here in the South, I tell people, don't keep in mind. I don't think that the Sasquatch, they damn sure have the potential. I don't think they're the threat you need to worry about. I tell people Oklahoma and Texas is like Australia. Everything wants to eat you or kill you. We got rattlesnakes, we got spiders, we've got hogs, we've got wild dogs, we've got 2-legged people that can do brutal things,
Yeah,
sure.
I don't know why. It seems like now I'm researching in all the dangerous areas. I'm kind of like you, Nick, but I just tell people, please be safe. And Nick, I want you to come on and explain this pepper spray thing for people. It's a 100% legal in all 50 states. Even if you're a convicted criminal, you can carry pepper spray.
Right.
Sure.
This new bear spray, we tried it. I did it. Nick, I told you I thought a hog would come through it. Nope. I bought the red can like you had. I think it's the red diamond. You buy it at Walmart, $35.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We hit a hog at about 10 feet.
Yeah.
And that hog made for the hills.
You were thinking that they had the thing like the
with a flapper on their nose.
Flapper. But when we were in when we were in North Carolina, late January, and we were looking for Dogman, and out from the bushes, I don't know if you heard about what
that bear.
Out from the bushes, it was a very large black bear.
Yeah.
But an unusually large snout, which made it, and the snout was whitish also.
Yeah.
It came out of the bushes and growled aggressively. I had two guys down that were taking a knee. The rest of us were aiming at it. I mean, we would have lit this sucker up, but I told the guys, don't shoot. Let's use the bear spray first. They hit it from both sides with the bear spray. He dropped immediately and took off.
Yep.
I'm telling you, their sense of smell is about 40 times more than a human's.
Absolutely.
And they do have eyes, people, and they do have a mouth and a throat.
Absolutely.
And I could verify that because I've seen at a zoo 3 feet away through the bars, a bear open his mouth and he's got liquid in there and saliva.
Absolutely.
So he got hit with this bear spray from two fellows shooting it. And that was the end of that. Thank God, because Gary, we would have lit him up. Totally
I bet.
lit him up.
I know how y'all go loaded.
we had one in a chamber, plus we reloaded,
Yeah.
the clip, put it back in. We have 20 plus 1. So we're 21 shots.
Y'all are all carrying AR-10s, aren't you?
Yes. 5 guys with 200 grain, 308 bullets, right? And we would have had 21 times 5 go into this thing because it was huge. And the first thing is safety first for us. But I told the guys, hold up, let's hit them with the bear spray. And it really worked. It worked very well. Now, I got people out there saying, no, it's not going to work 100% of the time. Well, thank God. At least I tried it first.
Yeah.
And it worked on an alligator that time when we were down safeguarding a film crew down in Florida. It worked on a mountain lion. It's worked on this bear. I mean, and it works on humans too. I can tell you that.
I can personally attest to that because I had to take it in some of my training.
We had to do that too. We got hit by it. I'm telling you, I've never had.
And what people don't understand now. Here's what I will say on that. I've had my dogs come through that little bitty pepper spray that you buy that you carry in your purse and stuff. But the biggest thing, there's a shelf life on this, folks. You need to replace it every 6 months.
And tell them why, because of the rubber gasket around there.
Absolutely.
It out.
Well, and it also will break down. It breaks down over time, loses its capacity. But I've literally watched my dogs go through it. I don't do it now because you take a chance of ruining your dog's nose. But what I tell people is this bear spray is 20 to 50 times stronger than CS gas. It's potent stuff. And I also tell people, please, if you're going to have to use bear spray, make sure you tell everybody, if you're in a campground or anything, everybody around you, that you use bear spray and gas, because it will ruin a dog. If you have any kind of dog in the area, it will ruin their nose.
We slap on a mask because that's oleoresin capsicum, the pepper spray, and 5 to 6 million Scoville heat units.
Yes.
That will burn your pants right off.
It will raise blisters on bare skin.
I'm going to tell you, it's some strong stuff. And what we use, it shoots out in a conical shot, whereas regular human spray shoots straight.
Yeah.
So there's a big difference. You're just, and by the way, people, if you are using it for self-defense and the bad guy does this as he's coming at you, spray his hands. Yeah. It's going to go right through at him.
Oh yeah.
And he's not going to have a happy day no matter what.
One thing we're fixing to start playing with the hogs, just to test. You gave me the idea, Nick, is one of my team members is real big into paintball, and we're fixing to do the CS.
You could buy those CS balls already.
Yes.
I don't want to put it out to the people, but I'll tell you privately if you need to know.
I'd like to, because we're wanting to try that, because that would add a whole new level of threat deterrent if you have something coming in, because them things got a range of 300 feet. And you that would give you a farther. That's another thing too, people. I tell people all the time, here we're doing the safety thing. Distance. Standoff
range. You need the standoff range with them.
Absolutely. If you see a bear, back up slowly. If you see a wild dog, if you see any dog, distance. It drives me nuts. Sorry, I'll get on that tangent.
Well, Jay, we're at the end of our filming here.
Unfortunately. But in a couple of weeks, I was thinking we got Dan coming back for part 3, Nick, and week after next, Gary and Dan have been friends for years. Maybe we can have Gary on that night with him.
Dan Drolio?
Yeah, Dan.
It's funny. He literally just messaged me. Yeah, Dan. Dan is good people. Dan is I don't understand him. He's another one of them. Why would you want to go and put your hands on a snake? I just don't get it. Nope. He's a herpetologist.
Yeah. I don't get it either.
Well, Gary, it's been really great having you on, man, and we'll get together.
Yeah.
Don't hang up after we kill the camera.
Yeah.
Jay, it's on you now, bro.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in. It was great, Gary, having you back, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you for having me fun. It was fun.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Gary.
Need to get a hold of any of us. We're all on Facebook, and you can hit us up on Messenger. Everyone have a good night. Be good to each other, and God bless. Good night.
Good night now.
Good night.